we got to talk about the best transfers that are on the offensive side of the ball for college football going into 2025. I've come up with my list of guys that I think is going to be a bunch of dogs on the offensive side of the ball. And we got some dudes that I think are going to be big time going into 2025. So let's start off with our number 10 guy. It's Barian Brown, who's now at LSU. And Easton Vincent's in the chat right now. He can attest that he's excited for Barian Brown. Barian Brown is an electric player. 6'1", 173 pounds. I think he can gain another 10. And I think you can put him in at that X position. And I think that you can put him as like, he's a guy that I think can win the one-on-one battles. You can utilize him anywhere on the field. I think he was just so poorly used at Kentucky. And he was used everywhere on the field. He was a return man, used in the run game, used in the receiving game. The biggest issue is that he didn't have a quarterback to throw him the football. Now we're going to see a really, really good quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier throw Barian Brown the football. Barian Brown is a heck of an athlete. And I think with what he brings to the table for the Wildcats, I think that LSU is going to be in for quite a ride in 2025 with Barian Brown as your guy that, hell, even if a guy like Nick Anderson isn't really going to be able to see the field, it doesn't matter if Chris Hilton isn't healthy, whether Aaron Anderson has his catches reduced because of the added value from the portal. Barian Brown is going to be that guy that is going to be a difference maker for you at the wide receiver position. Coming in at Coming in at number 9. I think Mekhi Hughes is going to be a dangerous, dangerous running back. And I don't think people are paying attention to Mekhi Hughes as much as we really should be. Because Mekhi Hughes has a huge, huge upside to him. 2-time All-American over with Tulane. Ran for 1,000 yards both times. He's going to be in a position to have a lot of success with Will Stein as his offensive coordinator. It's been a while since Oregon's had a dynamic running back. Now, you can look to last year and say, oh, we did this, we did this, we did that. Look, it's hard to replace a guy like Bucky Irving. And you could say Jordan James had his moments. But look, man, nothing can really replace what a guy like Bucky Irving did for your team. And I think that he might be not coming back. I don't know if Jordan James is coming back or not. But I do think that what he brings to the table, it's definitely one that is concerning to me with how good the running back room can be for Oregon. But a guy like Mekhi Hughes is going to be dangerous. Shifty guy, north and south type of athlete. Can make a lot of guys miss. He is hard to bring down. He's 5'11", 210 pounds. The dude is a dog. And look, we've had guys from here cover him. I think Scout has covered him a couple of times. Mekhi Hughes is a dangerous back. And what he lacks in, let's just say, height overall, he brings to it in his ability to run the football. He is a powerful, powerful running back. And I think he's going to have a lot of success this year. I think that with what Oregon's going to bring to the table in 2025 in the run game, they're going to really be dynamic. And with the young back and with a young guy that's coming in at quarterback in Dante Moore, you're obviously going to need to take a lot of the stress off of him. And that's why you got a back like Mekhi Hughes who can get out of the backfield and be a pass catcher, and he can get you easy first downs on second and third down. My number 8 guy is Pat Coogan. Pat Coogan is a man at guard. I think he has an opportunity to be a first-round draft pick as a guard. 6'5", 310 pounds, going to Indiana, going to be with our guy Fernando Mendoza. And let me just tell you, it is going to be really good. That guy can get out in space and pull. I think that this is going to be really interesting to see what Indiana can do in year 2 of the Curt Cignetti era. Boy, you came out with a splash when you got 2 of the best transfers in the class of 25, when you got Fernando Mendoza, who can replace who can be your plug-and-play quarterback. And then you've got a guy in Pat Coogan who can really bolster your offensive line that really dominated last year, but in those 2 games and in Big Ten play, when you play Ohio State and when you play Notre Dame's front, you lacked a lot of interior presence. And look, this is huge for Indiana to get a guy like Pat Coogan and to get a guy like Fernando Mendoza. Mendoza's a bit more shifty. He's a bit more of your typical running back or more of your typical dual threat quarterback. You know, I think that it serves to his advantage. And I think it's going to definitely help at the end of the day with what they're going to bring in. You're obviously going to have to replace a guy like Curtis Rourke, who is going to be very much so missed. Had a great season last year, but I think he's in a good position. I think Indiana's going to go into 2025. If they go 8 or 9, if they have 8 or 9 wins, wouldn't surprise me one bit. You bring in Mike Shanahan as your OC from JMU. He's been with Curt Cignetti for a while. And trust me, I love Curt Cignetti. I have no issue with him talking, and I love it when he does. Mike Shanahan has been with, my gosh, he's been with Curt Cignetti since 2016, whenever he was at Indiana University at Pennsylvania for about 5 years. Boy, he is an experienced offensive coordinator. And Shanahan, and what he lacks, Mike Shanahan's a hell of an offensive play caller. That's why he has been so successful. And that's why Indiana is going to be going back in the next year. Definitely would consider them a dark horse 10-win team. Wouldn't surprise me if that happens, but we'll have to see. All right. How about Nick Anderson? Nick Anderson to me is an interesting prospect. I'll tell you what. Yeah, Nick Anderson to me, there's a lot. It's a boomer bust type of situation with a guy like that. My thing with my thing with a guy like with Nick Anderson is this. High risk, high reward. You're talking about a guy that's coming off of an ankle injury that missed a good bit of last year. Nick Anderson has a lot to bring to LSU. And you're talking about the guy that caught the back shoulder fade to beat Texas in the Red River rivalry 2 years ago. You're talking about a guy that, dude, you don't know what he's going to give you. Is he going to be fully healthy when it comes to his next year? Got hurt against Tennessee. He hasn't played a full game in 2 years. Nick Anderson, to me, is going to be one of those guys that you don't know what to really expect until you get into the actual season. Until you get into probably fall camp is when we'll get our first nice look at what Nick Anderson is going to bring to the table. But the guy is a jump ball receiver. He can use his body to get leverage off of DBs. I think he can really be a difference maker right there. And I think that he's going to be one of those guys that you better look out for in 2025 if he is healthy. If he's not, that's going to be a rough one for LSU. But you've got a deep receiver room if you're LSU, and you're happy with that. Kevin Concepcion. Casey Concepcion is a heck of a prospect. He is one of those guys that is extremely, extremely dynamic. 5'11", 189 pounds, speed. Speed is the name of his game. Casey Concepcion is one of those guys that you would love to have on your team. When you talk about a guy and what he is going to bring and how dynamic he's going to be, you bring him in with Terry Bussey, with Micah Hudson, that receiver room is going to be dangerous going into 2025. And you bring in and you have a young guy in Marcel Reed that's going to be really good. Dude, it's going to be really, really good. It's going to be one of those years that Texas A&M could have a much better offense than they did last year. I think with year two, I think they will get better on offense. Now, how does that offense translate to the field, and how will it improve their overall record? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Because until we see something different, we're not going to get a Texas A&M that's going to win 10 games. Sorry. Whether you like it or not, that's the truth. And that is nothing but the truth. All right, coming in at number 5. Isaiah World is a man out there at offensive tackle. You talk about an Oregon offensive line that got hammered against Penn State and against Oregon. Against Ohio State. And you see what he does. He bullies defensive linemen. He is an excellent pass rusher. He's just Stonewall out there at tackle. He's a workhorse. And the guy is an unbelievable specimen. 2-time honorable mention all Mountain West. 2 offensive linemen to start at 13 games. Now, I know you're talking about Nevada, but you're talking about a guy that has so much upside to him, has so much talent that you cannot miss out on a prospect like that, and you're getting a dog. Number 4, I got Zachariah Branch. Zachariah Branch is going to be the playmaker that Georgia needs at receiver. You're talking about a team that had 36 drops last year. You cannot have that. And you can't afford it. Zachariah Branch is going to bring you a lot of different looks in the return game and in the receiving game. Improved a good bit last year. Got a lot more targets, got a lot more catches. There's a reason why they're comparing this dude to Reggie Bush, and it's because of how dynamic he is out at wide receiver. And I think he's going to make a big difference for Georgia at the end of the day with what he brings to the table. I think it's going to be really interesting. And just knowing that there's so much talent with him, how he responds to it, he's done well the first 2 years with an elite OC in Lincoln Riley. Now we'll see how he adjusts to the Mike Bobo offense. We'll just have to see. Number 3, I got Carson Beck. And I know some people may not like it, but I don't know what to expect from Carson Beck. If he didn't have that AC injury, if he didn't have that Tommy John surgery, then I would be looking at him differently. And if he didn't have the middle of the season that he did while he was at Georgia, I would think differently of him. Or UCL injury, excuse me. I am not really. I'm pretty concerned about Beck in this offense. Now, look, you're getting into the Shannon Dawson offense that was electric last year. And look, Miami's getting a lot of young guys back that were pass catchers for Cam Ward last year. But it's still Miami. And how he's going to benefit from that being in the Dawson offense and how it affects his opportunity to advance as a pass catcher, we'll see. We will see. Will it work out for the good? It could. I think it could. I think it could be a big thing. You get CJ Daniels from LSU. I think he's an electric receiver that did not get a whole lot of looks at receiver. But your tight end game is still lacking, for better or worse. So, what do? You don't really know. My question is, do you take a chance and go get Jonte Cook again? Probably not. I wouldn't either, if I'm being straight up with you. So, it's how do you improve that tight end game? That's the biggest question that I have for Oregon or for Miami going into 2025. Now, I'm not saying that Carson Beck's not going to make a big difference. He is, trust me. Believe me. Oh, he is going to make a hell of a difference. Number 2, but Eric Singleton Jr. just makes a bigger impact for Auburn in 2025. Eric Singleton was in an option-first offense and made so much of an impact that it was stupid and ridiculous. You can look at those last two games and get a real clear-cut picture as to why. Look at what he did against NC State and help that team go down the field and put themselves in a position to win that football game. Look at what a guy like Singleton did against Georgia, going up against that secondary. 8 catches, 86, and a touchdown. So if that doesn't tell you what type of impact he is making for this team, doesn't make sense, huh? It's really impressive. Hey, by the way, Richie Incognito is about to have a day. This is the latest tweet that we saw from him. This is us bullying Mike Pouncey for wearing a blanket during our buggy ride to dinner in Indianapolis the night before a game. There you go. Looks like a scary scene. This might be worse than the okay. Oh, God, this is going to be great. Oh, yeah. Hey, have a great freaking day, bro. Like, this is awesome. This is amazing. I'll just say that much. This isn't crazy. Anyways. But no, Eric Singleton is going to be a big impact for Auburn that needs another pass catcher. Now I understand. You're going to lose some dudes if you're Auburn. Hugh Freeze has been cooking in recruiting and in the portal. You get Jackson Arnold. You still maintain Cam Coleman, who's going to have another counterpart. If Eric Singleton doesn't have 1,000 yards receiving, it's pretty impressive because you better have a Cam Coleman that popped off. Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton is going to be the best receiver duo in college football, but they're not the number one overall prospect and the guy that's going to make the biggest impact for their team, none other than John Mateer. John Mateer is a game changer at quarterback, and there's a reason why. Here was a guy that was with Ben Arbuckle. That's the biggest reason why he's number one on my list is because you bring your own offensive coordinator to Norman, Oklahoma, and you're still in your backyard. The guy is an unbelievable prospect that can change a game in a hurry. I mean, holy shoot. You're talking about a guy that threw for 3,100 yards, 29 touchdowns. You're also talking about a guy that ran for 826, 44 total touchdowns in 2024 alone. You're talking about a guy that has over almost 4,000 total yards of offense by himself. And I think with the type of offense that Washington State has run the last 2 years, look, Ben Arbuckle has had Cam Ward in his backyard. Ben Arbuckle is a really, really good offensive coordinator. I think that when you pair him along with Mateer, that is going to be the best duo, coaching and quarterback duo in college football. The only problem is you got to address some guys in the portal, get some young guys in at that X in the skill position and at the tight end position. If you can do that, and if Oklahoma realistically wins 7 or 8 games, it's going to be because of what John Mateer is going to be able to do to change the outcome of a lot of games. That's just the bottom line truth. And guys, look, John Mateer, number one on my list. John Mateer, best athlete that I've seen at quarterback in a while. But here's what's going to happen. John Mateer may not go on to be a top draft pick. He's got the intangibles. He's got everything that you need in a quarterback. But how is he going to fare in an offense that is without a guy like Ben Arbuckle? They're comparing this kid to Johnny Manziel, which, honestly, he's a bit bigger and shiftier than Manziel was. But, man, that's a heck of a claim. I would definitely be excited to see a Manziel-type season coming from none other than Ben Arbuckle's best quarterback, John Mateer.